What if Kong was the king of the monsters? What if Kong was the one going around defending the planet from the threats Godzilla had faced? For this situation, we're gonna put Kong in the same situations that Godzilla has went through, excluding the ancient times. That's really speculation. And spoiler alert, he wouldn't survive. Ghidorah and Shinamura are there. You can figure it out for your own. And he will have both of his weapons, his axe and his beast glove. However, his axe will not be charged unless given a specific scenario. We'll be seeing if Kong has the feats and statements to really support his title of being one of the quote-unquote strongest titans in the monsterverse. Starting in timeline order, we have Awakening. After many years of constantly encountering the Shinamura always managing to escape Kong's grasp, Kong has finally had enough, and in a final bout against the Shinamura, he will finally swear to permanently destroy the monster, that one day could even become stronger than him if given access to enough power. Kong is definitely stronger than the Shinamura, as the best thing the Shinamura has is somewhat wrestling with a awakening Godzilla and making them bleed, which admittedly is quite impressive, but it is less impressive than Kong's feats against even a 2021 Godzilla. And while yes, he's weak and holding back, I would still say this is stronger than the Awakening Godzilla, since Awakening Godzilla is just simply not that strong. While this fight doesn't present a challenge for Kong in terms of raw physical stats, obviously Kong being much faster, no one's really going to deny that. The Shinamura can regenerate even from a single cell, meaning you need to completely vaporize Shinamura to kill it. Kong could rip, slice apart, or punch it into pieces. The Shinamura would just regenerate. Honestly, the only way I think Kong could win is if he uses his environment, like try to stuff it in lava or something. Unlike Godzilla, who really just has his atomic breath and can one-shot them, Kong doesn't have this kind of thing. Even the axe, which wouldn't be charged, wouldn't help. So I think it's either the Shinamura would get really badly beaten, but it would still be alive. I don't think this Kong could permanently take care of the Shinamura and kill it like Godzilla did. But I think you could probably make the Shinamura at least submit or leave Kong alone and leave the people alone because it would know not to mess with Kong. Something along the lines of that, or Kong would just use his environment, maybe try to burn it down in the lava. Maybe that would work to try to kill it. But either way, Kong definitely would win an encounter. He just can't permanently kill it. That's the main problem. Moving on to 2014, the EMPs would likely not do much to Kong physically. However, it might deactivate the Beast Glove actually, which would be interesting since the Beast Glove is still, an electronic device. I can see the Mutos depowering that with their EMP pulse. So for this fight, he would not have the Beast Glove and would not have any drug-enhancing properties that it gives him, for the people who like to believe that argument. The axe, if it's not charged, won't have any effect. Either way, I think in a one-on-one situation, Kong could take care of the Mutos relatively easily. Being beaten up in pretty badly in a 1v1 against a 2014 Godzilla is not the best look, even against a base Kong with just his non-charged axe. However, if they gang up on him, they would definitely hold the advantage, just like they did on Godzilla. Considering Kong, even on the 2014 Godzilla, while I do think could beat this version of Godzilla, I would say this version of Godzilla is at least comparable in durability, if not more durable than this Kong, when even that did not save him from the Mutos literally tearing into his hide, which is incredibly impressive even considering this Godzilla. Just look at all the damage. Godzilla is, torn apart. It's actually kind of impressive what the Mutos are able to do as a duo, even considering the context. So I do think they could definitely hold the advantage on Kong for at least a bit, until either two things happen. A, something similar to the movie where the humans distract the Mutos and get one to get away, or B, Kong, while I don't think could physically survive the beating as well as Godzilla does, or more or less take more damage, maybe be more crippled, I think he'd be more likely to distract them on his own, if anything. He is obviously much smarter than the Big G Man, and would figure out their tactics quite quickly. If Godzilla can figure out how to take them down individually and counter their tactics, Kong could do so as well. Kong would eventually likely split the two up in some way, or the humans would split the two up in some way, cut off the male Muto's wings, and kill it, and then cut off the female Muto's head. And then his beast glove would be back on, which is pretty cool. But yeah, this actually would be a pretty challenging fight for Kong, even if he does have the stats advantage in most categories, due to the Muto's shockingly actually strong pincers, their ability to work as a team, and the fact he wouldn't have the beast glove in this fight. However, as I just said, I think Kong would eventually escape and win. Now for the Muto Prime. Once again, this would be very different from the normal Muto fight. The order of events do play similar. Muto Prime feeding on radiation, Kong goes after Muto Prime, keeps running away because he's still weakened and he still needs to recharge his energy. However, Kong, I think, would be a lot more affected by Godzilla in these punches, as I do think an aftershock Godzilla is a lot more durable than Kong, as I discussed in previous videos. At the very least comparable, even if you don't want to go that far. While Godzilla is stronger than the Muto Prime physically, the Muto Prime is still a challenge and a threat to Godzilla, and Muto Prime is consistently stated to be stronger than Kong. Like, very consistently, actually, to have stronger arms, to just be overall stronger, and Kong needs armor to actually protect them. While Muto Prime is specifically a Godzilla counter, he can work to decent effect against other titans. Maybe not someone like Ghidorah or Shimo, but to Kong, I think Muto Prime could do it pretty well. So once we get to the nuclear power plant fight, or the final fight, I don't think Kong would survive, or at least survive without help from the humans. Keep in mind, with all the things that we mentioned, plus the fact that the Scream would take care of his axe, make his eardrums bleed, and probably do worse than the Kamazots did, actually, considering we know the Muto Prime Scream is a lot better than the Kamazots. And depending on how you look at the Beast Glove, it would break the Beast Glove as well. However, I don't think the Scream could break the Beast Glove, but it definitely breaks the axe. So Kong is at a severe disadvantage, like the Muto fight, where he just doesn't have one of his weapons. And not only that, he is dealing with an attack which we know will disorient him, and is against an opponent who is confirmed stronger than him. So I do not think Kong would survive in this scenario. So right now, we have Kong with pretty much 2 wins and 1 L, which isn't bad for first start off. The Iron Dragon would be pretty simple. He does fight a stronger Godzilla, but he doesn't do anything to Godzilla except for making him bleed in a weak area. I don't think anyone's going to contest if I say Kong would win without much struggle. Now we move on to Ghidorah. Kong approaches the Arctic as Ghidorah awakens, the 2 ready to trade blows. The epic battle finally starts, and Kong fucking dies. Yeah, I think this is gonna be a little undeniable. No, in any fight in the film, Kong is not surviving. Like, you can make the argument that he run, but his goal is to, he's the king of the monsters. He needs to defeat his opponent. He can't defeat Ghidorah without some help or whatever fanfic reason you want to assume. That's what we're kind of going off of here. Can Kong on his own beat a opponent without writing some fanfic reason that he would win? Like, oh, I don't know, he gets some electric powers, or his axe gets thermonuclear, whatever the fuck. But in the Kong we have now, with his beast glove and axe versus Ghidorah, Kong is not winning this encounter at all. Like, at the very, very, very least, Ghidorah is, even in this weakened state, much stronger than the Godzilla, who is objectively more stronger and durable than Kong.
Yeah.
In this corner.
Yeah.
It's going down.
But
Look at that.
It's
massive.
I love it because it makes Godzilla look small. Yeah,
Underdog.
small, which never happened. He is the underdog.
I gasped when he missed. The first time I saw it.
And that was to show that, Godzilla is an underdog in this fight. His ultimate weapon, which in the last movie
Was his finishing move.
Yeah, is useless.
Kong is smarter and faster, but I don't think that changes the fight when Kong can do very little. Plus the regen, even if Kong somehow could get a lucky hit and do some major damage, yeah, no, it's just getting regenerated. And for anyone who believes the high ends of Ghidorah, Shimo is comparable to Ghidorah, no matter whether you like it or not. I go over here. The two are at least somewhat relative, and Shimo is obviously massively outside of Kong's league. He just doesn't win this. But once again, let's go on to his next encounter. Minion is very simple, and once again, I think this is going to be something people aren't going to deny. Kong is directly stated to be a more credible threat than Amaluk or Silo, despite the wrong statements about Amaluk, which might make you think that he's actually relative to Kong, which the scenario was more like the Shinamura situation, where it just has some regen stuff that he can't really counter with, hands. He doesn't have a special ability. He's a punchy punch. He's on a atomic blast, Which, yeah, Amaluk has that regeneration. I think it's just a similar situation for Shinamura, where Kong can beat the shit out of Amaluk, and Amaluk would probably just submit. I mean, Amaluk was out here submitting from a single kick to the main Godzilla. You think a full power Kong with both his weapons isn't gonna make Amaluk submit? Yeah, exactly. And Scylla, even we know a 30 times nuke amp Scylla would get pitied by Kong. So, yeah, you can imagine. I think Scylla would just die here, actually. I don't think Kong is letting Scylla live at this point. Scylla's getting torn in half. Even pre-Evo Tiamat, we know, while it's not a fully evolved Tiamat, we know that a more stronger Tiamat than the one in this comic is essentially equal with Kong. The two go back and forth. And a Kong that is arguably, actually likely, weakened due to it this fight taking place hours after GBK. The only thing you could say is that the fight might take place in water, which Kong is not good in water, or we can both admit that. But even then, I think he'd just drag him to land like Godzilla did, and he'd slice up Tiamat. Same thing here, I think Tiamat would die here in this kind of timeline, I guess. Not gonna cover Godzilla because we already saw this. Godzilla obviously beats Kong. Like, come on, we know this, guys. The Beast Glove doesn't really change anything, or the fact that he got a bit stronger in GXK. He still loses to a base Godzilla. Mecha versus full Arsenal Kong. Yeah, no, Mecha is dead. Mecha just dies. Obviously, if it's the weakened Kong, then Kong's gonna struggle a lot more. Obviously, he was gonna die in that weakened state. But a full power Kong versus Mecha? When we know that a weaker Kong, the weakened Kong, can at least somewhat contend Mecha, and the Godzilla that Kong is a lot more relative to than Mecha is, in that fact, is, a lot above Mecha, more so than he is Kong, by the way. And we know the Beast Glove is directly superior to Mecha off of the direct design for it. And you can even say that this weakened Kong actually ripped off MG's head. No, the cut was like on his lower neck. I wasn't actually in where he's ripping off his head. Mecha's not taking a beating from a full-powered Kong. He's getting torn apart. Like, I'm not the first person to say Mecha is overrated, but you have it again. Here you go. The only thing you can somewhat argue is this statement, but this is just for a base Kong, not for the Beast Glove Kong. So it doesn't even matter. The Beast Glove is just objectively above. But let's go on to GXK. As I kind of mentioned, Nuke Amsilla is literally considered food for Kong. Kong wins. Evo Tiamat? Well, but Viper, Kong was beating Evo Tiamat in the game, blah, 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 says the people locked in the basement, but considering the events of Kong's Forever Incident take place right after GBK, no more than a couple hours according to in-game lore, and there's a 3-year time gap, it's very obvious that Tiamat, while he does look similar, he obviously got more energy between this 3-year time period. Not only is he seemingly nerfed in this game too, he's objectively smaller. He goes from completely easily wrapping Godzilla's body in GXK to like not even being able to fully wrap Kong's body. He's objectively smaller in this game though. And and this makes sense feats-wise, they Ghost being relative and like equal to the weakened Kong, to actually being able to cut through and constrict the blue GXK Kong, which is objectively better than anything Kong has ever done. Which, wow, what the atomic breath one-shot him? It would do the same to Kong. Even like the GVK breath has statements of one-shotting Kong. Sure, he got stronger in GXK, but enough to cover a one-shot gap? Or at least not, or at the least the atomic breath severely cripples Kong. More or less the supercharged one that we see in the film. Yes, blue GXK is supercharged. And we even know that the energized Godzilla can just no-diff a beast of Kong, which it did not get no-diffed. He was contesting Godzilla a little bit, a lot more than Kong would. Even if you want to deny all this, the fight takes place in deep water. Without like land, it's just in deep water. No, Kong is losing. Kong is definitely losing this fight. Obviously, the team up fight would play the same, since it's just Godzilla and Kong versus Scar and Shimo. He's above Scar, but he's not above Shimo. He's not, like, it's just the same thing with the movie shows, really. Goes into Hollow Earth, he fights Scar, Shimo kicks him out, Godzilla comes, yada yada yada. So, overall, Kong actually does pretty well, and the only people that can beat him are people that like have actual good comparisons with Godzilla, a lot better than Kong, since I slander Kong a lot, but he is actually pretty respectable. I don't think there is many Titans that can beat him, aside from the ones I mentioned in this video, in which 3 of these Titans are obvious. So, I don't, like, 3 of these Titans, like Godzilla, Ghidorah, and Shimo beating Kong in the Big 24, yeah, that's kind of an obvious take. I think the only more controversial ones are Tiamat and Muto Prime, which I can understand if you disagree with, but especially considering the scenarios too, like, Kong being in deep water, first of all, we know he can't really swim that well, and just the Muto Prime situation, he doesn't get his axe, he arguably doesn't get his glove either, depending on how you look at it, and at the least, we know Muto Prime is stronger via several statements, and just the feats back it up. And we know Muto Prime has an attack which can cripple Kong. So yeah, that's all for this video.